It's a region of China that was off limits during the pandemic, but western Xinjiang province, origin of the Silk Road, the ancient gateway for trade to the Middle East, is again open for tourism and raising questions. Elizabeth Palmer takes us for a visit.
Xinjiang, on China's western frontier, is being marketed these days by the state both for its beauty and its business opportunities. This tour was arranged by the Chinese government's information office. It rented the buses, it set the itinerary, and it also provided the translators and the staff that has accompanied us every step of the way. They showed us everything from agricultural machinery to ancient ruins to e-sales of local plums on TikTok. What we didn't see was evidence of these, the detention centers and prisons that turned Xinjiang into an international scandal.
I am Tumaras Yalqun, daughter of Yalqun Rozi, the renowned Uyghur literary critic, writer, and educator. My father has been forcibly disappeared since 2016 and is suffering in the Chinese prison.
Human rights groups say that starting in 2014, up to 1 million Muslim Uyghur people were rounded up in Xinjiang and imprisoned. Those who could escaped, and thousands settled in the United States.
Detention facilities.
Babur Ilchi is with the Uyghur Human Rights Project in Washington.
What is it about the Uyghur people that threatens the Chinese Communist Party?
Ethnically, we're not Chinese. We're not Han Chinese. We're separate from the majority of China. The Chinese government perceived us as a potential threat to their complete supremacy over China.
Meanwhile, the government has been investing heavily in Xinjiang. For example, its multi-billion-dollar high-speed train. Everywhere we saw evidence of the eye-watering money China's spending on infrastructure and tourist development. The message? Forget human rights abuses. Take in the sights. Zhu Bin, one of our translators, is Han Chinese. He grew up in Xinjiang and wanted to tell us how proud he is of the area he's always called home.
I hope you could change some of the ideas or change some of the impressions which has been spread by some Western medias about Xinjiang.
He's talking about those Uyghur detention centers that, at first, the Chinese government denied existed. But after they showed up in satellite pictures, it said they'd all been closed in 2019. The official with us wouldn't go on camera, but did confirm we had driven by one which he said wasn't worth pointing out because it was shut down. Instead, we saw ethnic dancing, local wine production, and a village remodeled and beautified especially for tourists. But there was no chance to speak casually with the people who lived there, and of private Uyghur life, we caught only passing glimpses. There was one official nod to China's crackdown on the Uyghurs, the extremist museum in Xinjiang's capital, Urumqi. Gruesome exhibits recall attacks by Uyghur extremists going back to the 1990s. In one, says the guide, 1,700 people were injured and 300 stores were burned. The message is China's government had no choice but to come down hard.
The Chinese government, as you well know, will say, listen, we had some very serious terrorist attacks and we just responded.
If your response to acts of violence or perceived acts of terrorism are to round up an entire ethnic group into mass concentration camps, then you have gone beyond your ability to defend yourself.
At night in Urumqi, we did see some heavy security presence, but overall, with facial recognition cameras everywhere, the policing and the atmosphere were relaxed. The very fact of this tour shows China's government believes it has brought the Uyghurs to heel.
Everything that we've seen on this tour and everything that we haven't underscores China's determination to rebrand Xinjiang. So it's no longer notorious for gross human rights violations against the Uyghurs, but rather famous as a tourist attraction.
Allah!
The traditions of Islam were once everywhere in Xinjiang. Religion was a pillar of Uyghur community life, and so were conservative customs. Veils for women, beards for men. Not anymore. The law now discourages overt religious expression, even dress, in public. Meanwhile, majority Han Chinese influence is officially encouraged. The ancient capital Kashgar is now Kashi, its Chinese Mandarin name. In the Xinjiang bazaars, Uyghurs have been Disneyfied. Even the sacred Idka Mosque sells tickets to tourists. In Urumqi's bazaar, we found Uyghur Imamu Maimeti Siddiqui, who told us he'd been in a re-education camp for 7 months. His crime? Being overly religious. I wouldn't even let my wife work, he said. And now he responds with the party line. I learned I'd been breaking Chinese law and reformed. But with surveillance cameras watching and our official guides very nearby, how free was he to speak? We'll never know. It's showtime in Nazarbag Village Kindergarten for local Uyghur kids. Officially, the Chinese government promotes bilingual education for them, but this is Mandarin, and so are those books back there on the shelves. The Chinese government wants the world to believe its draconian crackdown was a good thing for stability, security, and for the Uyghurs themselves. If the Uyghurs disagree, they're not saying, least of all to us. And as far as China's concerned, that is mission accomplished. Welcome to Xinjiang 2.0.